Hello and welcome to today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. We'll start with today. Things are really going to ramp up, by the way, by Wednesday and Thursday. But today, a pretty moderate, almost weak chance for severe thunderstorms, but it is there. It's a marginal risk out here from Garden City and around Dodge down to northeastern New Mexico and a chunk of the Texas Panhandle. The threat on that is pretty much 15% hail, 15% severe winds, and there is this little tiny 2% chance of tornado risk kind of tucked into northeastern parts of New Mexico. We're looking at NATOcast. It kind of confirms that little splotchy area of tornado risk. That's at 2%. Also down in Louisiana and also up in parts of North Dakota, south of Fargo, and that area there. As far as CSUs look at this today, it does look at a tornado risk that goes down into coastal areas of Texas, all the way down to Mexico for tonight. And that hail risk is out here in northeastern parts of New Mexico. No mention of the tornado risk there, and very minimal, if no wind risk at all. Then we move to Tuesday. We've got this pretty large area here of marginal risk. I think the center of most of the activity is going to be here. We also have this other area of marginal risk, 1 out of 5, runs from northern Iowa straight back into Canada. I did want to say, and this has been around for a couple of days, this little tornado risk, 2% tornado risk that exists from parts of southern Michigan down through northern and central Indiana, Chicagolands included in that, Champaign and Urbana in that, Fort Wayne, Indiana, South Bend, all in this 2% tornado risk for tomorrow. It's been showing up for a couple of days. And there's also a separate tornado risk down here along coastal areas of Louisiana. And getting a little more inland than that, New Orleans would be included in that. If we look at NATOcast 12Z, look at tomorrow, it highlights a 5% risk of a tornado there from Gary, Indiana, south suburbs of Chicago, on over to just around Kalamazoo and including South Bend and just almost including Fort Wayne, Indiana. And also another 5% risk that goes in the Florida Panhandle and covers parts of southern Alabama and also coastal areas of Texas and Louisiana. So interesting. I don't really see that in CSU's outlook as much. It doesn't highlight this part at all, and is a little bit different on where to put that 2% risk there, but mostly the same, missing maybe some of these areas here. But when you see two areas like this, I mean, sometimes you can just kind of say, okay, it's there too. But very little hail or wind risk on Tuesday. Things change dramatically on Wednesday. I want to show you this has pretty much been intact for a while now. We have this large area of enhanced 3 out of 5 risk that runs along I-70 and a few counties left or right of that. In Missouri, northeast Missouri certainly included, Kirksville, Quincy, on over into Illinois. We have Springfield and Peoria and Champaign-Urbana over in Indiana, Lafayette and Indianapolis. St. Louis, Missouri, barely in this. But look at the slight risk area, large area of yellow there. And yes, I'll have a separate, I don't know if we'll do a heads up for Springfield quite yet on the video side, but I will zoom in on this and highlight both tomorrow's marginal risk and Wednesday's risk, as you can see, slight, almost enhanced. Now, I want to take a look at now on day 3, the Storm Prediction Center just says significant severe, which is 30% chance of anything, is in this area right here, the hatched area. And so, that's all we can get out of the details right now. It doesn't really go into details regarding tornado or wind or hail, but we have other products that do, like the CSU model puts the tornado risk at 15% right there in central Missouri. Right along where I-57 and I-55 come on down, and a pretty large 10% risk area too. This is, of course, the area that was hit the other day pretty hard. Streator, Illinois is right there, for example. Everybody saw that tornado, and there was a lot of tornado warnings going on where I just put that dot. Wind risk is also at a premium there from Columbia on up into around Hannibal, Quincy, and up to around, let's say, Macomb, Illinois, in those areas there. I did want to show you the tornado risk as it unfolds on Wednesday. So this is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is pretty much meant to be, let's say, from late morning to the evening hours. So the tornado risk is maximized there. And then what becomes concerning here is that from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m., so late afternoon to early evening primarily, the tornado risk shoots up to 60%, almost 70%. in this area of Illinois here: Urbana, Champaign-Urbana, Bloomington, Decatur, Springfield, Lafayette, Indianapolis, those areas, almost over to Fort Wayne. And also, there's a separate area up here from Minneapolis over to Eau Claire, down to Winona and Rochester, Minnesota, that has, a little bit of an enhanced area of risk. I just didn't want to leave you folks out either. Just to show you that real quick. And then let's come back down to here. Now, this goes from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., so Wednesday evening into Thursday morning. Still a tornado risk into the overnight hours. Fort Wayne's in this, Toledo, Cleveland, and Mansfield, Ohio, Muncie, Indiana, Lafayette, and Indianapolis, considering the population center that it is, yeah, you're in that. So just wanted to show you the progression of that through the day on Wednesday and even into the overnight hours into Thursday. Then on Thursday, that severe weather risk shifts up here to the portions of the Northeast, with West Virginia fully engulfed. The basically just cut Pennsylvania by a diagonal. The southeast part of that is under that. So New York City and Philadelphia is in that. Washington, D.C. is in it. Richmond, Virginia. New York City, I think I mentioned. And if we look at the equivalent on the CSU product, here's where the SPC put the risk. And a lot of that is encompassed in that, but they extend it further down along the front into Alabama, Mississippi, and even a small portion of Louisiana. Now, I did want to show you this for folks. I know we have at least one person that watches me from the Northeast, and I did want to show you that the tornado risk, according to StormNet, is actually up above 30% in the western half of Massachusetts and a little bit around Schenectady, New York, and that area there along the Hudson River Valley. Just wanted to show you, and that moves from the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, this is the 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. 12-hour shift, and then moves into southern Vermont and New Hampshire, still that same area of Massachusetts, and also into New York State. Just to be complete, I wanted to show you that because it's not really showing up and being emphasized too much in the other areas so far. And it may go away tomorrow, but I do think there's some validity to that. And then we just go along. We have some 15% risks Friday. It's out over the same area as today's risk. Southeast Colorado, very small parts of New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. SPC has not pulled the trigger on that, nor this, but this is a 15% chance over the high plains, central plains for Saturday. And then on Sunday, shifting down a little bit into parts of Oklahoma and Texas. And that pretty much sums up anything probably worth talking about for the longer range stuff. And then finally, NIU's outlooks for the next 7 days. This is kind of a summation of supercell probabilities. It does so very well for Wednesday. A lot of that is Wednesday, but some of that might be this weekend too. And then June 22nd through the 28th, stable air in the Northeast and the North Central Northern Plains, I should say, and in the Great Lakes states, but still pretty active over Kansas and parts of Texas, Missouri, maybe over into the mid-Tennessee and Ohio River valleys. Again, that's a 7-day average, not a specific event. And then June 29th through July 5th, a definite retreat of high probabilities of supercells to the high plains, Montana and New York, but sort of a dribbling down of possibility that would be very capping and dry line dependent from New Mexico down to Kansas, even down into the panhandle of Texas.